This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, miniatures, and paints, discount prices at miniaturemarket.com.
Hey guys, Mike here, and today I am going to be reviewing Starfinder by Paizo. Starfinder is a role-playing game set in the future. If you're familiar with Pathfinder or D&D, Starfinder uses a very similar system to Pathfinder with some small tweaks to it. Now, I am a huge Pathfinder fan. I've got my Pathfinder book that I've had for almost 10, 11 years. I mean, clearly you can see that I use this thing constantly. I'm a huge fan of the Pathfinder system. I played D&D before that, so I am really liking, I like to do role-playing games. So when I heard that Paizo was going to be coming out with a new Starfinder game, I was really excited to see how it looks. So what I'm going to do here in this video is I'm not really going to tell you exactly how you play Starfinder. It's very similar to with Pathfinder. What I want to do is highlight some of the similarities and differences between Starfinder and Pathfinder, and then give you just a general overview on how it plays and some of the things that I've seen. So what I'm going to do is I'll take you down to the table. We're going to kind of go through what's in the book, some of the goods and some of the things that might be missing from the book, and then I'll come back up top and I'll tell you what I think about Starfinder. So here we are with the core rulebook, and again, it's a great looking rulebook. It's got really beautiful art in it. You know, it's what you'd expect from Paizo. Beautiful illustrations. It's a 525-page book. Really looks great. Great illustrations. So, kind of what's kind of similar and different is let's kind of go through what we would do. So the first thing, of course, each player character is going to do is they're going to create their character sheet, and in the back of the book here, they do have a character sheet that characters can use here. And again, it starts off with, you put your name, your class, and everything like that. You've got your, and I'm going to get back to a little bit of that in just a minute. You've got your ability scores, which stay the same: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. You go down a little bit lower, and then here's all the skills that you can take and the different ranks that you can get in the different skills. Again, they're similar, but they've got that sci-fi flair to them, whereas you look at things like culture, engineering, life science, medicism, mysticism. But there's also some of the same ones that you remember from Pathfinder, from D&D, like perception checks, sense motive, stealth. So again, a lot of the similar, but again, ramping it up to that sci-fi version. Here's where you keep your health. Energy, you're going to have your armor class. I'm going to get into this because there's little changes in armor class, savings throws, attack bonuses, weapons and attack bonuses here, and then a sheet to record all of your spells and all of your other information. So again, very similar. Now where we get into some of the differences here really starts off in the beginning of character creation. All right, so we look at some of the races. Now, in Starfinder, we've got some different races than you would see in your traditional fantasy. We've got androids and humans. You've got some that kind of look like rats, the Yasokis. You've got the Vesk, which are more like reptiles. Again, these guys here look a little bit more like you think of like Mantis maybe, from like the Guardians of the Galaxy type stuff. So you've got some different races that are neat, and these are the core races that are in Starfinder. So again, each race has got its own little differences. They all have their own, if you take an android, it's got certain bonuses and hindrances versus humans. So again, the book lays out all the different things, whatever race you choose. After you choose your race, one of the things that's different is you choose a theme for your character, and that's different from Pathfinder, where Pathfinder in D&D, you just picked your race and then you picked your class. Here you start with a theme. Are you going to make a pilot, a bounty hunter, an icon like a popular celebrity, a mercenary, outlaw, a priest, scholar, spacefarer, Xenos seeker, and themeless, if you don't really want a theme. They give you a little bit of extra things that as you go through the levels and as you level up, this kind of kicks in as the overarching theme of what your character is. Like for instance, if you pick an ace pilot, you get a +1 to your dex, and then there's actual things at 1st, 6th, 12th, and 18th level that you get as you level up, which is kind of neat. It's a kind of neat thing to add to the system. Once you've chosen your theme, then you're going to go into your classes. Your classes here are, again, a little bit, definitely different than what your core fantasy classes. You've got an envoy. They like to baffle their enemies, and they're good with negotiation and politics. You've got the mechanic that's good at building things. He uses drones and stuff and has a companion that's a drone. So kind of think like a ranger's got a wolf. The mechanic actually has a drone that flies around and fights with him. The mystic. Starfinder does still have magic, and the mystic actually uses power and uses kind of like nature type magic because he gets it from his understanding of biological systems. You have the operative. The operative is good at stealthy things. Think of an operative like a thief almost. You've got a Solarian. A Solarian is pretty neat. They actually use dark power and light power to create things around them. They can make like a black hole around them, which is pretty neat. You've got the soldier with, again, big guns, big weapons, and then the technomancer that uses technology and magic and kind of blends them together. So those are kind of neat classes, and again, they pair with the theme, with the race, and that's how you start the beginnings of your character creation. Again, then you come to your skills. Each class has its own number of skill points, and as you can see, it's just like Pathfinder, where the different classes are along the top, tell you which one's a core skill, and then your skills are along the side. So again, if it's a core skill, it only costs 1 skill point, and if it's not a core skill, it costs 3 skill points. Again, very similar to what you would see in the other ones, and like Pathfinder. Again, right here in the nice table. And then, once you've done that, each, depending upon your race and class, you get to choose feats. And again, you've got, feats. Some of them are very similar to what you'd see in Pathfinder, like Great Fortitude, +2 bonus on Fortitude saves. Some are very different, though, like Pull the Pin, perform a disarm to activate a foe's grenade, So, you can run over and grab the pin out of a foe's grenade, and you blow them up there. Or jet dash, move fast while running when jumping with a jetpack. So there are different things here that again go along with the new Starfinder. And again, I'm not going through them, but in each one, they spell out what each one does and how it works. All right, so that's basically how you create your character. You've got equipment in the next area, where you can, you can select the different types of guns, different types of melee weapons. So it's got a small arms type weapons, advanced weapons. Again, just great artwork throughout all the cool guns that you can get to use in the game, which is, again, one of the neat things about playing in the Starfinder system. So that's character creation. Again, everybody would create their character. A couple other differences in Starfinder. One of them has to do with crits. When you roll a 20 on a natural 20, normally in Pathfinder you'd have to re-roll again and see if you hit, and if you hit, that's confirming the crit. Starfinder, if you roll the 20, automatically you double the damage. There's no flat-footed either, so there's no ability to get caught flat-footed. So they've taken that out, kind of simplified it a bit. There are two other things that they've done that are fairly interesting. You now have 2 different types of armor class. You've got energy armor class and kinetic armor class, which is cool. So it's basically based upon what type of armor you're wearing. So kinetic would be armor from getting hit against like blunt objects, like a rock or a sword, or a club, and then energy would be if you're getting shot by like a laser. So you've got 2 different armor classes, and then what they've done is they've got an armor class versus combat maneuvers. So instead of having that CMB and CMD that they've got in Pathfinder, you just have AC versus combat maneuvers. And again, it's a little bit easier to calculate. See, in Pathfinder, you'd sometimes see, like for armor class, it'd be like, this plus this plus this, and it was like 5 boxes across. Now, very simple. Armor classes is just armor bonus, dex, miscellaneous modifier. For the AC versus combat maneuver, it's just your kinetic armor class plus 8. bingo, and that's it. So that's kind of nice. That is a lot more simplified, I think, than it used to be. So I like that. I think that's really nice. The last thing that I'm going to kind of go through and the differences here with the characters has to do with this right here. You have stamina points and hit points and resolve points. Now how that works is when you take damage, you start from your stamina points first. So if you've got 12 stamina points and 12 hit points, what would happen is the first thing that would happen if you took damage, if you took, say, 10 damage, you would lose 10 stamina points. Now, the stamina points then come back in between rounds. So they kind of regenerate. Once you're out of stamina points, you then move on to hit points, which do not regenerate. There they have to be healed. When you have lost all of your stamina points and all of your hit points, however many resolve points you have left, that's what sort of ticks down every round. It comes back to you, and if you haven't, stabilized yourself, and when you run out of resolve points, you die. Resolve points can also be used for a couple of other things. Each classes use resolve points to kind of do some sort of a special action depending upon the class or depending upon the profession that you've taken. So resolve points can be used, but they're also used in determining when you fall and die. So that's pretty much some of the big differences when you're talking about just players. Now, for me, the big draw to Starfinder is spaceships. In this game, you've got spaceships, and they have their own whole new mechanism that is really intuitive and really, really fun to play. When you get your spaceship, you actually build your spaceship in a very similar way that you build your character. You give it a name, you pick its size, its speed, all of that stuff, and then you've got, in the back of the book, you've actually got your own character sheet for your spaceship. So that's really, really cool. Now, the cool part about spaceships in this game is when you are in your spaceship, there's a couple things that are different. One of the biggest changes, and an interesting change that they did, and you can see it right here. Let me zoom in. With spaceships, they went to a hex map. Everything else in Pathfinder and in Starfinder, when you're dealing with characters on the ground, they use the squares. But for ships, we use the hex map. So any of you who have the mats that have squares on one side and hexes on the other, this is going to be great for this, because whenever you need to get into space combat, you just flip it over and you put the hex map up and you're ready to go. Now, how the spaceships work is each member of the party is actually a member of the crew. So you've got the pilot, who has a skill, they've got a piloting skill, so whoever has your highest piloting skill will fly your ship. You've got a captain who makes the decisions, and he also can motivate and give bonuses to the gunners, to the pilot, to the engineer. Whoever needs it, he can kind of allocate the bonuses wherever he needs them. You've got the engineer who he's tweaking the shields. He's moving the power from one to the next. And of course, when you play this, there's all kinds of the Star Trek references. Well, we need more power and everything like that. So and he's doing that. You've got the gunners who are in the different turrets of the ships, and they're swiveling around and they're trying to fire. So you've got all these people doing all of these different positions. So everybody is involved when ships go into combat, and that is great, because one of the things that we were concerned about was that when we went into combat with the ship, or when we went into ship flying, is everyone going to sit around and just the pilot fly around? Well, that's absolutely not true. Everybody is involved. The other thing that you've got is turning. The bigger the ship, the slower it turns, and they have a turning radius where it says if you have a turning radius of 1, that means for every time you want to turn the ship one facing, you have to move 1 hex. So if you wanted to go up here, you'd have to go 1 turn, 1 turn, so you'd have to move 1. Some of the real big freighters have like 3, so you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, turn. 1, 2, 3, turn. So they take these wide arcs so the fast fighters can get in and really attack the big frigates, because they can't maneuver real well. It's really cool, really neat aspect to the types of to the ship. The last thing about the ships is the combat is fast and fluid. In normal Pathfinder and in Starfinder and D&D, you roll initiative and then you go in initiative order. In ship combat, however, you roll initiative each round, and then whoever wins initiative chooses, do I want to go first, or do I want my opponents to go, the monsters or the mobs to go first? So you can really strategize to say, well, if we can get them in this position, then we can swing around, and then combat happens simultaneously. So super fast, super fun, really, really neat, and interesting play style with the ships. So that's pretty much what you get in Starfinder here. Again, the book's got all the spells. It's got everything you would need to play a game, except monsters, and I'll talk about that when we get up top. But come on back up top, and we're going to talk about what I think about Starfinder. All right, guys, Starfinder to me is a huge, huge success, in my opinion. I absolutely love Starfinder. I was lucky enough when I was at Dragon Con back at the beginning of September that I actually got to play a couple of games of Starfinder. So I have actually played it a number of times, and man, I am telling you, it is amazing. They have taken a system that, in my opinion, with Pathfinder, you've gotten to the point where there are so many books, there's so many things that you can tweak that you almost get lost in it, where Starfinder brings it back again. You only have the core rulebook. You've only got X number of classes. You've got the new themes that you put on the classes, and man, is it fun. I was able to play a Solarian, and I was able to make, basically I was able to attune to dark matter, and I could create a black hole and suck enemies towards me and stuff, and that's actually a picture of the Solarian right there on the cover. Look at the glare there. So that's actually the guy I played, the pre-gen, the level 4. So it is a ton of fun. And when we got into space combat, I mean, it was what I love about gaming completely. I mean, all wrapped up. We were all up on our feet, all hovering over the map. Okay, and if we move here, okay, if you can execute this maneuver, you take the ship, fly, do a flip, a roll around, we'll be right behind them and stuff. So we're all cheering for each other to roll the dice. All of the sci-fi cliches are being thrown around because we're taking damage, and I was the captain, and I was shouting at the engineer. I was like, I need more front shields, and he's shouting back, we can't take it anymore. Everything that you would think. The immersion in that space combat was incredible. Tons and tons of fun. I have wanted to do something other than fantasy for so long. I have looked at a number of other systems. I looked at Savage World. I looked at a number of systems. Even there's a couple ones. There's Rogue Trader. I was always wanted a sci-fi based role-playing game, and Starfinder is it. And man, it is hit on every single high point that I can find. I like how they simplified a lot of things where, I'm not sitting there studying the rulebook to try to calculate my base attack bonus or to try to calculate my armor class. It's like 4 things. They've simplified spells. The spellcasters, they've kind of consolidated a lot of that, so you don't have the different types of magic anymore, divine versus arcane. They got rid of a lot of that, and they just really meld the 2 different worlds of magic and technology. We had a guy who was playing the technomancer, and his drone was flying all around. He's strapping bombs to it and flying it around. Just a great game. If you know Pathfinder, you will pick up Starfinder literally in 10 minutes. You will go through this book, and you'll just kind of flip through a couple things. You'll find what you're looking for, and you will know exactly how to play. The only thing the problem right now, this is out, and they've got one adventure path that's out, but they have not, to my knowledge, as of today, and today is the 15th of September, they have not published a monster manual yet. So I don't have a good pool of monsters if you're going to make your homebrew campaign yet. I am certain the monster manual is in the works. I mean, certain. So that's going to come out. So until that comes out, we're a bit limited. We can really only you can use Pathfinder mobs, and again, they work just the same because they have all the same mechanics, so that's no problem. But for the sci-fi mobs and the ships that you're going to want, you can do a little bit of digging. Paizo on their website has put up a number of like pre-gen stuff, level 4s, level 1s. So you can go grab that type of stuff. They have all of the rules for how all the weapons work. So all of that stuff is out there. You just don't have it in a book yet. So GMs, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer before you put your players through the greatest space opera that you can come up with for that monster manual. But in the meantime, I would highly recommend you getting a copy of this book, kind of go through it, and go ahead and purchase that first adventure pack or get those first adventures that come out there, just so that your players can kind of get their feet wet in the game. I was lucky. I dove right into a level 4 character because I didn't know what I wanted to play. The characters are so vastly different than a traditional fantasy type character that I really wanted to see what the Starfinder had to offer before I nailed down what character I wanted to play. So I was able to play a level 4 game, and I really liked the character that I played, and I just immediately start thinking about how I want to do it, how I want to change the theme up a bit, how I want to make this race, and so it would be great to kind of have a good idea and get a good handle on how the different classes work and the skills. I know that in like Pathfinder and in D&D and any role-playing game, there's like 50, 60 skills, and you maybe only use a handful of them. Well, in Starfinder, there's some skills that you might not normally take, but when you get to ship combat, you have to have them, like piloting. If you don't have good piloting, your pilot is going to go fly you off the edge of off into a star, off into an asteroid. It's going to hit. He's not going to be able to do good maneuvering. So somebody in your group's going to have to put points into piloting. Same thing with engineering. If you don't have the ability to move between power and shields, you can't do it. So I think that where Pathfinder and other D&D games, you could really just bring a hodgepodge of whatever you wanted and make a group out of it. With Starfinder, I think you're going to want to talk to your fellow players and say, look, we're going to eventually have our own ship. We need to make sure that we have the positions that we fill, that's how it should be. I mean, when the Enterprise goes up, random dudes don't look at each other and say, well, what do you feel like doing today? Do you want a captain today? Do you want to shoot today? People are specialized, and I think Starfinder really brings it in and gives you the rule set and the mechanics to do it. Again, if you can't tell, I am super excited about this game. When I saw this come out at Gen Con, I told Rob the second I knew it was coming out, please get a copy of this book, and he did, and man, it is incredible. Now, this book, Miniature Market's got it, or they're going to be getting it back soon. This has sold out almost everywhere. I talked to a couple of the people at Dragon Con who work at Paizo, and they talked about how this sold out at Gen Con faster than any product they have ever brought to Gen Con in their history. This outsold everything. They brought tons and tons of these books, and I think they had like 7 or 8 pallets, and they sold out in 45 minutes. So this is a hot item to get a hold of. You can buy the PDF. If you want to start look at it, you can get the PDF. But I would recommend getting the hardcover book. I am a firm believer in the hardcover book. Again, I love having this because at the table, this is a great reference to quickly go through. I've got it bookmarked for the campaigns that I'm playing now. So I recommend getting the hardcover book because it's worth every penny. The illustrations in it alone are so fantastic. So again, this is Starfinder by Paizo. I cannot recommend this high enough. Go to Miniature Market, and as soon as they get it back in stock, get a hold of this and start playing some of the greatest space operas you can ever imagine. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.